Welcome to Ponytails and Pep Talks, the podcast where blowouts, breakdowns, and breakthroughs are a weekly discussion. I'm your host, ReJeania. For over 3 decades, I've been behind the salon chair as a stylist, an owner, and yes, your favorite unlicensed therapist. I have heard it all. The tears, the triumphs, the you won't believe what just happened stories from courageous women overcoming incredible obstacles. So let's meet one of them right now on Ponytails and Pep Talks. Hi everyone, this is ReJeania. Welcome back to Ponytails and Pep Talks. We're continuing our series this week on a journey back to yourself. So a little bit of a trigger warning. We are talking about trauma, all kinds of trauma. So today we're going to do a big generalization over those traumas because each of these traumas can affect everyone in kind of the same ways, no matter what kind of trauma that it is. So today our guest is a life coach that works with people quite a bit that is going through trauma. So if you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, Regina. I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, just a little bit about me. I moved into the life coaching space because it helped me so much with my own trauma. I just found there was an opportunity for a space of healing in the coaching world where in my past experiences, most of the coaching I experienced was people coaching maybe from a deficit more than from experience of healing.
Yes.
And it's what really made me kind of stay away from coaching and not like it and have a huge, you're talking about trigger warning. I was triggered by coaching.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's happened with you before. Have you experienced that?
I definitely have. And even just going to therapy or in therapy sessions, or there'll be times that books, songs, music, can trigger things. And just talking, even with this podcast, one of the reasons, same thing. I've been in situations where so many other women have been in, and I've done the work though and got better. And if I have information to share to people, but still in conversations, things do still trigger me, and I have to breathe through it, work through it, just like they do. And that's okay.
It is. It absolutely is. And I stayed away from coaching. I was always, if I did it, it was in a place of just this bitterness of like, fine, you think you have something to teach me, let's go. And so that obviously is not the posture you want. But finally, I found a format and a framework of coaching that absolutely changed my life, because what it taught me was the coaching came from a space of, hey, I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. There are just parts of myself that need healing and need to be seen, need to be exposed to the light. And there are my brain's operating in a way where I'm still stuck in the trauma. And there's a saying that says, when you're triggered, you don't act your age, you act the age you were when the trauma happened, right?
Right.
I know you and I have kind of touched on that a little bit. So I thought, I'm never going to be a coach, but I'm just going to eat this all up for myself. And then I realized I'm like 3-4 years into this going, man, I want to share this with people. This has changed the way I operate on my day-to-day life. And so that's why I'm doing this.
I love that. And, same way with me. And even in the salon chair, when I have clients sitting in my salon chair, and just by default, I think hairdressers kind of become little therapists, as I say on my thing, unlicensed therapists, but we're definitely life coaches, as well. And just our personality, I think, usually we've gone through a lot of things, and we do have those things to share. And it's that concept of, if you have a well and plenty of water and it's flowing, and you see a person that's thirsty, reach out and give them a drink. And that's what you have done, and myself as well. I do like where you touched on with the fact of saying, I'm not the problem, or what's wrong with me, because we definitely have a tendency to go there. And especially if there's multiple traumas in your life, being from parents and then a spouse and and then a boyfriend girlfriend relationship situation. Finally, you're like, apparently, I am the center of this, so there must be something wrong with me.
Right.
And but I like the way he said, it's not that there's something wrong. There's just some things that need healing that happened to us that we had no control over.
Yeah, I think, when you operate in from trauma, from childhood, from marriage, from, there's religious traumas to
Mhm.
cultural trauma as well. I think out
Yeah,
of context, it does seem like, oh, this is just who I am. This is the way I operate out of context. And
right.
and honestly, Regina, this sounds strange because I'm a pretty educated person, but I didn't know really what trauma was. I hadn't heard the term used outside
No,
of the medical field until probably 3 years ago when I started my
yeah,
own journey, 3, 4 years ago. And I'm like, trauma, what is that? And there
right.
are still places in my life that I'm like, oh my God, that is a learned behavior because of an experience that I had.
Yeah.
I'm protecting myself. And so I didn't even know what it was. I was so
Hmm.
steeped in all of the belief systems. And you know what's so beautiful? This is why we say there's nothing, I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me.
Hmm.
We are actually incredibly intelligent creatures that adapt
Yes.
so incredibly that we even fool ourselves.
Right.
I don't know if that's happened to you before, if you've come into a place where you're like, well, I'm traumatized and that's a trauma response.
I have now as well. Also, for me, I probably didn't really hear trauma or the words trauma or narcissism or any of that till probably 5 years ago myself.
Yeah.
And honestly, it helped things to make sense for me. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, because your mind realizes something is wrong, but you don't know the answer. And, it'd be like me trying to work on my own, vehicle or something. It's like, I can hear that ticking sound isn't supposed to be there, but I
Yeah.
have no idea where to start to fix it or how to fix it, or does it even need to be fixed because it's still driving down the road. But however, it does eventually break down. And same thing,
Yep.
until we understand trauma or what that means, then we don't even know what direction to go to get help to see about getting better. There are
Yeah.
those of us like me and you that have, like, okay, there's got to be something else here. This isn't right. This isn't working. And we reach out and seek help, and then we get to share it with others.
Yes. I kind my main focus is I talk to people that come to me and that want to
Hmm.
get coaching with me are
Yes.
people in transition. And I'm going to give you an analogy for that. If you've ever had childbirth without an epidural and you've kind of felt that process, or if you've been told about it, I don't know if you did it that way.
I did it that way. No
Okay.
epidurals.
Same. So there's the part of birth where it's called you're in transition, right?
Mhm.
And it's also the point in time where the nurses or the midwives, I used midwives, will tell you that's the moment in the birthing process where you will vocalize, I cannot do this, where your brain kicks in and goes, I can't. And I thought, well, that's crazy. I mean, I know I'm going to give birth. Like, I can't imagine saying that. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The second transition hits in, it's right when the baby is right hitting that canal and wants to go,
Yeah.
and she's in transition. I say she because I have a daughter,
I
and I will be damned. I literally, the words came out of my mouth, I cannot do
can't
this.
do this.
And in retrospect, I'm like, oh my God, they were right. So what I liken that to is when you're in a place and you start to realize emotionally and physically in your life, I can't do this, the coping mechanisms that I have used up until now, they are no longer working.
Right.
I step in. That's where I'm the person that says, hey, I totally know what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
have some framework that I can guide and hold a space for you to get through it, to get to the birthing point. Because
Right.
I mean, I birthed that child. You birthed your children. Nobody did it
Right.
for you. Now, there might have
That's
been some people
right.
there in support of it, right?
That's right.
And
They're
telling you,
supporting, they're loving, they're coaching, they're, cheering you on and everything, but they can't feel that same pain, nor can they walk through the same pain you have.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to feel it to heal it.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of us, what we've been doing is spending time numbing and not feeling. And that's what our
Right.
coping mechanisms. It's helped us to stay kind of numb and focused. But once you're in that transition point, okay, I have to feel this. I have to
Hmm.
understand the pain. And some people can feel really terrified. Honestly, the word's terrified. They're terrified by it. I mean, I've had people come to me and say, I'm ready. And then they realize, oh crap, I'm not ready. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right.
okay. And it's where I say there's nothing wrong with you. It's
That's right.
just not time. And you are divine enough to know when it's your time.
Definitely, but usually once they have that knowledge to that point, once they start thinking that way, they're more ready than they think. Usually, it's
Yeah.
usually time because the recognition is already starting to happen because there are so many different traumas out there. There's childhood trauma, there's spiritual trauma, infidelity trauma, physical trauma, all of the above. Do all traumas affect us the same, or is it more about whether we had support through it or not support or the knowledge, or do they all kind of affect us the same way?
I love that question, Regina. It's such a very simple yet profound question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can tell you've experienced some stuff to be able to ask that question,
Yeah.
like you've had to have walked through your stuff. So in my experience working with people, it doesn't. I'm the oldest of four children, and the parents that raised me are not the parents that raised my younger siblings because their
Oh,
experience in life was different after having me,
right.
right?
Right.
They were in their 20s when they had me. My mom was in her late 20s when she had the last child. And so the way I have coped with my trauma is very different. And the traumas that I say that I would have, the traumas that quote unquote I experienced
Mm-hmm.
are not the same as my brothers and sisters. Now, I'll let them speak
Right.
for themselves, but the way I have dealt with them, I think to answer your question, the way we deal with them is almost the same in that we numb it, right? That we avoid it and
Right.
we cope. How we numb it is very different.
Right.
Some people might do it with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might do it with work. Some
Mm-hmm.
people might do it with religion. And I know one of the first times I heard this, it made me stop in my tracks, but religion is a trauma response. Just
Yeah.
like overworking is a trauma response, just like continued relationship is a trauma response.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a way to outsource what I need to feel whole. It's
Right.
all the same thing. So, my answer to that question is, in my experience, we don't do it. We don't cope with it the same way, but we do all numb in some way.
I agree. And same way with me, whenever trauma would hit or different stuff, I got busy. That was a lot of my way to cope. I didn't do it by drinking or smoking or drugs or anything else. So it was, to say that when you say numbing, I think most people think that drugs and alcohol.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you're right, there's so many other things. It's busy. And that's what I did. I got busy. And same thing in church. I taught another Sunday school class.
Hmm.
Brought in, different things. So I got busy and arts and crafts and games and people and friends. And because if you're busy, you don't have time to think and you don't have
Yes.
time to worry about it. And
Yes.
I
No
agree there.
time.
Yeah, no time. And that seems that we think make it easier. And I know that before I understood traumas or, different thing necessarily, and I would say things maybe that my parents did or this and that. And, some of the response that would come back to me is, well, they didn't know what they didn't know either. So basically get over it. They
Yeah.
didn't know,
Yeah.
their parents didn't
Right.
know, whatever. But you know what? That doesn't stop what happened to me, how I was processing it, and how I needed to process it. Because whether they knew what they knew or not, it had an outcome in my life. And,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
so
The
I
way
don't like it when people say that.
you know what? I appreciate you bringing that up because what that is just dismissive. It's gaslighting. It's another
It
version
is.
of gaslighting, right? Now, people don't intend to do it, but again, this is bred into our culture to respond that way.
It
So
is.
this is a trauma response of somebody else going, let's not acknowledge your trauma because then I have to acknowledge mine.
That's right.
And what's happening is just because our parents didn't intend to traumatize us does not mean that they did not. And it doesn't change the fact that, hey, I am traumatized. But guess what? When people have to acknowledge that you're traumatized, now they
Yeah.
have to look at themselves. And that's the fear that we have. I don't want to look at myself, which goes back to what you're saying, numbing, staying busy, whether it's with drugs or work or Bible studies,
Hmm.
anything to not have to look at myself, which is also where gaslighting comes in. It's why it's generational. We
Yeah.
learn gaslighting and we don't even know we're doing it, right? To avoid the truth.
Right. And I think more so for women. Women just
Yeah.
even over centuries and generations and, things like that. If you dare, even 30, 40 years ago came and said, Uncle so and so, touched me, it would be like, oh, well, honey, you know, men will be men, da, 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 you're dismissed. And same thing, because then somebody would have to acknowledge it. And I do appreciate that today more women are allowed to speak up. They are being heard more and getting help for what that did to them. So
Yes, it is. It is happening more. And I do want to touch on the male perspective because it's almost in some ways it's almost more inbred in the male lifestyle to not speak up. I mean, about
true.
anything, right? What is
Yes,
this?
that's
Boys
right.
don't cry. They are not allowed to have emotions. So just imagine for a woman to come and say, Uncle so touched me, and for a little boy to say it,
Is
it's,
much harder for them.
isn't it? Like it's,
Hmm.
I have an empathy for that. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not discrediting what you just said about women because it's absolutely true.
Right.
But and there's and, right? And
Yes.
how can we create a culture where all children are believed and looked at,
Right.
whether they're boys or girls? And but do you know what? It starts with us. It starts with the individual being able to be truthful with
Right.
myself. If
Hmm.
I can't be truthful with myself, there is no way I'm going to be comfortable with someone else's truth. You just said it to start the podcast. Trigger warning.
Yeah.
We have to
Yeah.
say this because we know, in fact, there are a lot of people that are not okay with their own pain right now.
Absolutely. And having two brothers, then I've definitely seen, because we're talking about how it affects a family. So you've got two parents raising the same kids, but
Hmm.
yet everyone it has a different outcome.
Yeah.
One becomes the perfectionist, one becomes the recluse, one becomes the drug addict. What do you think are the factors that is it just our inbred personality that makes us
Hmm.
choose these different ways to numb ourselves?
Gosh, I don't have the answer to that, honestly.
Yeah, it's
I have,
exhausting.
that's been a question that has been on my mind for like my entire life. I think, like, what makes someone
Mhm.
become an alcoholic and another person become a workaholic? I mean, an example of
Right,
Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump has never touched a alcohol in his life because his father was a drunk, but his
right.
brother has gone in and out of institutions. So it's
Yeah.
it's too it's very interesting, and I do think it has to do in many ways with the makeup of the person, the individual personality,
Hmm.
and what they can and cannot handle and what direction they want to go. But I will get down to what I talk about in my coaching. We touch on what's called underlying commitments.
Hmm.
The gist of that, Regina, is that we are all meaning making machines. Everything that happens around us and to us, and this is a natural way of being, it doesn't mean we're good or bad. We make it mean something about us. So I'll give you
True.
an example, and I'll give you a really light-hearted example, right?
Yeah.
Because there's what we call big T trauma and little T trauma. To me, I think trauma is trauma, but
Hmm.
you hear it a lot in the therapeutic world. I'm not a therapist, but so an example could be you're at the grocery store with your mom. It's this usually the meaning making starts at the below the age of 9. Let's just say
Hmm.
you're 7 years old. Your mom has 3 other kids like mine did. We're at the grocery store. We're strapped for money. We don't have air conditioning in the car. It's July. It's hot. We got to get in and out of the store, and we're feeding a family of 6, right? I
Right.
pull off I pull off this cereal box and say, "Mom, can we get this cereal box? This is, I'm excited about this cereal." And it's like shushing me. Shush, I don't have time. I'm focused right now. And as a child, who has a very simple brain under the age of 9, I now make that mean something about me, right?
Right.
Now, did my mom intend to cause me trauma? No,
No.
but I needed something and I didn't get it. And so I made that mean, man, I can't ask for things I want. It's burdensome
Right.
to my mother. And so I'm a burden. So now, fast forward to 38, 39, 40 years old, I'm not needy. Like,
Yeah.
oh, no, no, I'm self sufficient. Like, I
Right.
made that mean that my wants are a burden on other people, and I will be damned if I'm a burden.
Right.
Now, that's a simple example, but it is what the simple mind can do. Now, imagine what can happen in these big T trauma moments, right? Same thing, but on a different scale.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of my little childhood memories, and I've talked to my mom about this before, but my brother and I, now I'm 4 or 5, so he's 2 or 3. We're just a couple of years apart. We got into this closet that didn't have a doorknob on it. And we were playing in the closet, but then we were
Mhm.
ready to get out and realized we couldn't get out. We couldn't figure out how to get out. There was no doorknob, you know, to turn. And I'm looking through the little hole and I can see my mom in the kitchen. And,
Right.
you know, we're like, Mom, we can't get out. Come get us, you know. And, you know, and her response was, you know, you got yourself in there, get yourself out, you know.
Right.
And I mean, in some ways, that's a healthy response because it's
Right.
like, okay, figure it out. You know,
Yep.
use your little brain, see if you can figure it out. But instead, I took it the other way. I did figure out how to get out. But after that, I'm very claustrophobic. I am fearful to be in a small space. I am fearful of getting stuck somewhere that I can't get myself out of. And that was a
Yep.
very tiny, tiny, tiny part of my life that through a huge projection to this day in my life. I'm not near as bad in elevators anymore. I can do elevators now,
So
but
what I
that just
would
shows you.
so if you're in a session with me, here's how I would we would look at that. Let's say that came
Okay.
up, right? You'd say,
Yes.
okay, I'm in this room. I because there's and instead of but, right? There's and I
Yes.
was able to get out, and now I'm also
Mhm.
claustrophobic. So my question to you would be, can you remember a situation? Has there been a situation at all recently where you have felt claustrophobic in something and you have gotten yourself out?
Let's see if recently.
I mean, I can think of one just based on some things you've told me, but I'll let you
Yeah.
come up with it. It doesn't,
Gosh.
and I'll help you. It doesn't have to be a closet. Like, think of a
Okay.
situation where I'm here and I feel claustrophobic. I feel like I need out of this,
Hmm.
and you did get yourself out of it.
Goodness. You know, some of that I would even say is a relationship where you finally feel so trapped
Yeah.
that you're like, your insides are screaming that you're so trapped. You've got to get yourself out of it for the
Yes,
relief. So I would probably say that would probably be my biggest T trauma, you know, was getting out of a relationship.
that's huge for you. So what you've now proven is you had a belief that if I'm in a small space, I'm trapped, I'm claustrophobic, I can't get out. But you've also proven it wrong that
Yes.
I mean, in like a huge way, getting out of a
Right.
closet is much easier than getting out of a relationship, right?
It is.
And you've
Yeah.
now proven to yourself,
Right.
hey, maybe that isn't true.
Yeah.
And so now instead of believing, hey, I believe I'm claustrophobic. I believe that I am incapable, right? Because the fear comes from the inability or the fear of not being able to get out. You've now proven that you can.
That I can.
And
Right.
so now your new belief about yourself is
Right. I can do this. I can get out.
I
I'm not
can get
stuck.
out. And but listen though, Regina, it's not a positive affirmation
Hmm.
because you actually did it. Let me tell
Right.
you, the difference between actually doing something and then having these positive affirmations is that your body has had and your mind has had the experience that you, in fact, can get yourself out instead of just sitting there trying to convince yourself that you can. And your body knows you're lying when you're
Right.
saying, oh, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, the hell I'm not. I have never, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. And so I know there's a lot of people big on positive affirmations, but in many
Right.
ways, that's like gaslighting yourself. And
Hmm.
your body knows it. Your body is like, girl,
It does.
I know you're lying. Like we do not feel safe. So quit saying, but you have had a situation. That's why I have to, I want to bring to the memory of like, let's remember, have you ever actually proven that wrong? And when you bring that alive in the body and mind, it's like completely changes.
It does. And I will say I have proved that to myself over and over again just by getting into elevators. I used to have a really hard time closing doors and being in a closed room. I don't
Mm,
care how huge the room was. And now I, do that. Back before I would even leave cabinet doors open, and I would go back and
wow.
think, why is that cabinet door still open? But again, now
Wow.
I close all of that. I close everything. I get on elevators. I, do all that, which is great. So in that, we're talking about body responses.
Mm,
And I talked in mine last month, talking about how our nervous system knows ahead of time before our brain even knows sometimes what's going on. And so trying to learn to listen to that nervous system whenever it does shoot red alert at you. And
hmm
for one, that's the trigger. Two is telling you, danger, this is wrong, but also it can alert you to exactly what you said. Okay, I already know I can get out of this situation if I need to.
Yeah.
And so it also alerts me to that, or alerts us, to that situation. So we talked about that. What about, people going through talking with you or going through books, and we're trying to learn to heal ourselves and get well and get better and get over this. And sometimes people spend so many years trying to get better and trying to do, whatever.
Yeah.
When does that time come where you go, you know what, I've learned a lot here, and now I need to
Mhm.
go from just surviving to thriving? When do we allow ourselves to say,
Mm,
okay, you know what, I'm doing okay, and now I need to thrive and not try to fix myself every day? When do we know that
yeah.
happens?
So I'll speak to my own experience,
Hmm.
because just that act that you're describing of like constantly wanting to heal and fix and like get better, those are things that have gotten me really far in life.
Right.
And it's also a trauma response,
Hmm.
right? Of like, oh, I've got to be better. I can't be this way. I have to be that way. Like it's this, there's this voice, this punisher voice of you're not good enough. You haven't done enough work. There's still more. And when do I know I've gotten there? I'll tell you, for me, it was when I finally could be in a place where I was not running the script in my mind of what anyone else might think of
Yeah.
who I am at this moment. Not my daughter, not my
Yeah.
husband, not my best friend, not my coach, like my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. Like the moment that I was able to go, I truly do not care
Yeah.
if anyone else is okay with who I am right now. I only
Hmm.
care if I'm okay with who I am, like the peace that I have.
Right.
And I can't say that I'm always there,
Of course not. Well, I don't think
right?
we ever will be. I mean, there's always something to, work on. So, but just not so focused on it
Yeah.
that you're dwelling in it. Because I've been to that place,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
just lay in my bed and don't want to get out of bed because I'm just so focused on I've got to get better. I've got to get past this. I've got to get through this. It's that journey though is
Yeah.
through it, that
That
makes
is.
everything better. I think for me, some things that where I know I'm healed in the areas is if I can talk about it and it doesn't trigger me anymore. I can talk about the situation that happened and go, you know what, it happened. That's not who I am anymore. I had no control over that. And I can talk about it without it triggering me.
I think that's also an example. For me, it's I'm aware of the trigger,
Hmm.
and I can sort of alchemize it. Like I'm like, okay, because there are still things, especially, and I don't know that we're going to get into that today, and that's fine, but
Yeah.
especially in religion, that I have
Yeah.
a really hard. Now my trigger response might not be this like, or like it used to be with other things,
Right. Right.
but it is this real like disgust and physical reaction. And I'm like,
Yeah. Physical
okay,
it.
I see it, I feel it, okay, and I'm not going to let it take me to a place where I'm going to allow the negativity to really manifest in my body
Just
by
say it.
talking
Hmm.
ugly or making accusations. Or I don't want that. When you have experienced, which it seems like you have, when you've
Yeah.
experienced the peace of like, man, I'm okay. I have a lot to work on, but I have arms around myself. I'm okay. I'm
Hmm.
gonna be okay. Like I can be mad. I can be angry. I can be sad. I can be even depressed for moments, and I'm gonna be
Right.
okay. Then there's
Yes.
no fear of feeling the trigger. There's no fear of feeling the anger, the sadness. There's a saying that I love, and I can't tell you where I got this or I would quote it, but it's not my saying. I will say that. And it says, joy is the matriarch of a mother of a family of emotions, and
Hmm.
she will not enter a home where her children are not allowed.
Wow.
And that has held me, Regina, because what that tells me is, look, we don't get to the goal isn't just joy and happiness. It's,
Yeah.
can I hold sadness? Can I hold anger? Can I hold betrayal? Can I hold depression and not
Hmm.
label that there's something wrong with me? Because
Yes.
we were created whole and perfect to experience all of those emotions.
Absolutely. That's super, super, super powerful. And I love that analogy. And that's true. I'm sitting here just, thinking that over at the moment. But yeah, can we feel the emotion and know that we're still going to be okay? I
Yeah.
think that's super powerful. So you teach, or you do the coaching, people come to you. Does it matter what kind of trauma they come to you with? Do you have, you just talk with them, work them through a program? What do you do?
So it's an 8-week course that I have right now. The specific program is called reinvention coaching, but my work is called in source coaching and personal mastery, and I use this 8-week program right now. I'm getting certifications in other work, but it's an
Yeah.
8-week program, and essentially what we do is we go as deep or as shallow as anyone is comfortable. And I will tell you, it's not based on how deep you go. The
Yeah.
success rate of experiencing this coaching is not based on how deep you're willing to go. It's
Hmm.
just based on, are you willing to go? So we talk about, what is your vision for your life?
Hmm.
Like, without having any judgment, what is your vision for your perfect life? How would you feel in the life that you desire, right? So we talk about freedom. We talk about underlying commitments. So what I just worked kind of mentioned with you, we go through there's a whole session on it. What are your underlying commitments and where did they come from? And some people might go into some trauma and some don't,
Yeah.
but it is really led by you. I am there to help, just to hold a mirror so that you can witness yourself and be in a space where you're actually allowed to be angry, you're allowed to be sad, you're allowed to be joyful, you're allowed to just sit and be with yourself and listen. So it takes
Hmm.
you from here to here. And for many of us, the distance between here and here is a very long way.
Yes. Yes, it can be. Absolutely.
And it's a place, Regina, where you're learning to have what I call, you're learning to be a self advocate.
Hmm.
Because one of the most telltale signs that you know how to love yourself is because you know how to advocate for yourself.
Right.
And in this, if I could sum it up in any one phrase, it is
Yeah.
about self advocate, like learning to advocate for yourself for whatever it
Right.
is that you need or want or desire without the guilt.
Yeah.
Right. There's also a week where we talk about boundaries. How are you setting boundaries? What are your boundaries? How are you setting them? Boundaries are set by
And what
you
those look like.
and what they
Yeah.
look like. Yes. And I say,
Mhm.
look, if anyone has crossed, the only person that can cross your own boundaries is you.
Yeah.
It's not anyone else. And so sometimes, like for me, that was the hardest thing for me to learn. Like, what do you mean? I can set a boundary and then, they just ignore me and they cross it. Well, no,
Right.
I didn't uphold the boundary.
Right. You let them. Yeah. You let them. You set it down. You set the boundary down.
Yeah.
Boundaries has been a big thing that I've had to learn and still learning more, about it. I also wanted to touch a little bit on the fact that not everybody had very traumatic childhoods or whatever,
Mhm.
but they still have things that play out in their life. They still have reactions that play out in their life that maybe they didn't necessarily realize was a little bit of a trauma response, because no parents are perfect. I'm sure I've done things to my kids, this sent
Yeah.
them to therapy. And I consider myself a really, great mom and worked
Yeah.
hard at it and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think it's important not to judge a book by its cover, because some people out there they're highly educated, they're sophisticated, they look like they're on top of the world. Everything is there. And sometimes that's their trauma response, because they don't
Yes.
want anybody to know that they're not all perfect inside here, but they want to project that. So,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
need to remember, even though you didn't have major traumatic things as a child, therapy can still help you. Life coaching can still help you
Yeah.
take a look at what did happen and if you're having reactions to those things. So,
Yeah, I like to say that by the end of the 8 weeks in my sessions, you are going to be your mind is going to be completely different. You will see yourself and the world
mhm.
in a very different way, and you will feel more empowered. You will feel like, wait a minute, I realize that I have the ability to affect everything around me, because look where I've
Mhm.
brought myself. Now, I might have done it unconsciously, by
Right.
the end of this 8 weeks, now I'm consciously creating my life. And I've had people leave the 8 weeks and start new podcasts, just like the one
Yeah.
you're doing. I've
Yeah.
had people start the one thing in their heart. I have a dear friend who survived breast cancer, and she went through
Mhm.
this course because she's like, man, I went through this big thing. But I mean, I'm still kind of numb. And
Yeah.
after the 8 weeks, she has started this incredible podcast. She's inviting people to a big conference that they're doing, an annual conference for breast cancer survivors or cancer
Oh,
survivors,
good.
because that was her dream. And so I can tell you a number of stories of people that have been activated to go
Mhm.
beyond the ceiling, that they have said, man, I just can't get past this place in my life. And so that excites me, because that's what's happened for me. I'm a completely different person now.
I
Well,
love that. And
I'm the same person, but I'm a different version. Let's put it that way.
a different version. There you go. I love that. I love the success stories, of course. And now you can be reached how? How can anyone can reach you from anywhere, right?
Really, from anywhere. I do all of my sessions via Zoom, so you don't have to come in
Oh, perfect.
person. And honestly, ReJeania, they can email me,
Okay.
averyduke11@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram, averyduke_LLC, and you can
Okay.
DM me that way. I'm in the process of creating a website, because I was sort of staying a little bit hidden for a while, and now I'm like, okay, I think it's
Right. I can do
time.
this.
Yeah, I need to, I want to help more people. So it's not there yet, but those are the ways you can find me.
Perfect. And I'll make sure that those links are, in the description as well,
Thank you.
so
Yeah,
that people can reach out to you. But Avery, thank you so much for coming on. This will not be the last time that you will be on here, because we
I'd
have
love to be
so
back.
many topics, to talk about.
Yeah,
And with social media, the trauma and learning about trauma and stuff is everywhere. And some of it's a wee
yeah,
bit scattered and a wee bit, sketchy. So,
yeah.
I want to make sure people are getting the right information, the good information that's going to help them. And that's why I appreciate you being on here. Appreciate, the people that you're helping. And I will say, my take from this today, and everyone else can too, is that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken.
Yeah.
There's just some, you just need to shed light on the information to healing. So I want to thank my listeners for being here today. Probably a little trigger today for me too,
Yeah.
and trigger because I've overcome so much of a lot
Yeah.
of this stuff too, and which is
Yeah.
which is great. And so all of these sessions, I can't wait to continue them on. I want people healed. I want to see them go forward in life. I've always been that kind of person that wanted to lift people up and show them their value, their worth, and send them on their way, just as you're doing, with your program to go on in life. So, guys, I want to appreciate y'all for being here. I look forward to next month, our next session. I look forward to having Avery on here again. And until next week, I love you guys. And I want to see you healed and well with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
See you next time on Ponytails and Pep Talks.